Hello and good morning. Hi, how are ya? I hope you're doing okay today. Um, we're going to start as we always do. Let's take a breath, huh? 4 in, hold, 4 out. Let's get in our bodies. Do 1 or 2 more of those for yourself, okay? While I get myself rolling here. So those of you who follow me on Instagram know that you get posts from me that are called Work Before Work. So this is the stuff that I do at work before work. You usually just get pictures, but now you're gonna get like the live work before work. I'm steaming up my glasses, oh my goodness. Anyhow, so I am, one of my current projects that I'm doing right now, because I'm weird, is I am currently making cups for the cast of Supernatural. I don't know how well you can see that there, but this is going to be for Dick Spate Jr. I did make a bunch of them before the last convention here in Burbank, California, but the glaze firing didn't turn out right. And I am one of those people that, like, if I make something and it doesn't measure up to my standards, I'm not going to send it out to anybody, because my work speaks for me while I'm not there, and I'm not there to say, oh, well, you know, it got overfired, or this did that, or that did that, and you know, you're not there to make excuses, right? The work has to stand on its own, and I cannot send out something that looks like crap. So I'm remaking those, and today what I'm going to be doing with this is I'm going to be carving that little pattern out. This, by the way, is the Horn of Gabriel, for those of you who know Supernatural. By the way, if you don't know Supernatural and you need another series to binge on Netflix, Supernatural, binge on Netflix. 15 seasons, amazing. Jensen Ackles, Jared Padalecki, Misha Collins, Dick Spate Jr., obviously, a bunch of other people who are really good at acting. And just really fun and engaging stories and all of that. So I would highly recommend it. Obviously, I'm obsessed. That's my obsession. I am not sorry. So anyhow, so I'm going to be carving on this with, I've got my, this is, by the way, for anybody who works in ceramics, this is just an ordinary pencil case. You can get these down at CVS. You can order them off of Amazon in a package of 8 million, which I actually kind of needed to do because I have got a bunch of underglaze and overglaze transfers. I've got a bunch of gold decals that I'm going to be working with as things progress. But I have my sculpting and carving tools in here, so I'm going to pull those guys out while I discuss with you what's been on my mind today. I have been thinking a lot about the fact that, well, like the last 2 of these that I did, the Pots and Thoughts, which is what we're doing right now. In case you didn't know, this is called Pots and Thoughts with Shelly from Shellhawks Creations. God, how cheeseball, huh? I've been thinking about, like, well, those few that you did were kind of heavy, so probably you should get something in there that's not quite so heavy. And it's Monday morning here. I'm sorry, you've got my Monday morning hair, which includes, by the way, my gray hairs. I don't know how much you can see here, but, like, you see these here? Yeah. This here, there's a patch right here that's at the very front. Got singed off a couple of years back when I was doing what we call a raku firing, R-A-K-U, not a raccoon firing, which some people mistake it for. It's not, it has nothing to do with raccoons at all. Nobody burns raccoons that's in their right mind. and I don't advise it. But anyway, I did a raku firing, and you take the thing out, the whatever like item you have, and you put it in and one of those ash cans that you use for pulling your ash out of your fireplace or your cast iron stove or whatever, right? And you put it in. There's like newspaper there, and all of a sudden the breeze came up and shifted and whoosh. I play with fire, and sometimes it's not good, but at least I didn't get seriously injured. Although my eyelashes got a little singed too. Sorry, like this is Monday and the airport's rolling. So anyway, so yeah, you got my Monday morning face. I'm going to do this for a little bit, and then I got to run off and get ready for work. But in any case, I wanted to talk about happiness because I wanted to get off of the serious subject for at least one. I don't want people to be tuning in and going, "Oh my God, this is so heavy." But I wanted to talk about happiness and satisfaction just a little bit. I guess as an artist and as something I used to, I had the privilege actually of teaching at Parks and Rec up in Northern California when I was still living there. I lived in Folsom, California, as I think I might have mentioned before, which, yes, that's where the prison is. No, I did not live near the prison. And if you actually just sort of ignore the fact that there is a prison on that property, the property itself is really gorgeous. It's right next to a river, and it's got all those really nifty California oak trees, and just really pretty. But anyway, I digress. I was privileged enough to be teaching up in that area. And one of the things that, as somebody who's taught ceramics, it's interesting to me to note, and I'm sure many of you have noticed this as well, that when people talk about art, art is this thing that is something that we all do from the time that we're little kids, right? I mean, we make Play-Doh sculptures, we do finger painting, we get all those, like, that cheap newspaper, that newsprint paper, and we do, the tempera paints and all that stuff. Anybody who's got younger kids that are still in, like, K through 6, you know how it goes with the art classes and everything. But all of a sudden when you get into like middle school, and then of course high school and beyond, all of a sudden art goes from this thing that is happiness and joy, and the joy of creativity and just doing whatever you want to do and kind of figuring out the real basic stuff, the basic stuff of how colors work, and blue and yellow make green and all that stuff that we learn. All of a sudden it becomes this thing that is only for very special people. Only special people are artists, and we kind of tell artists that, even while we treat them with contempt, because art apparently is easy, and yet it's for special people. But in that process of growing up a little bit, getting older, all of that stuff. Oh, by the way, they're building a new house right behind us. They tore down the ancient house that apparently had like termite damage or dry rot in the middle of the floors. And unfortunately, this elderly couple that lived there, older lady who lived there, just wasn't able to handle things anymore. So anyway, they tore the whole house down. They're building a new house, so that's why the noise. So I think what's really unfortunate is this kind of attitude that if you're not perfect at something, you should just not do it. Don't do it at all. It's humiliating. It's horrible. How can you do something when you're not perfect at it? And I think that takes away a very basic part of our humanity, right? our basic part of humanity before somebody just sort of goes in and and ruins it for us is that, we're creators, right? We love to create stuff, whatever it is. I mean, you had your little action figures and your dolls and whatnot when you were a kid, and you'd be there with your buddies, hopefully, and make up stories. And that's just this really natural thing that flows from us and through us when we're young, right? Until we get, some adult that says grow up, and do you want to sling burgers all day, and all of these terrible things that we tell kids in order to shame them for being, creative. And what I used to tell my students when I was up there in Folsom teaching at the Parks and Rec, I used to just tell them, after they told me, I can't even draw a straight line, ha ha ha, very self-deprecating and hiding the shame, right, of not feeling like you're good enough to do art, right? And I used to just tell them, like, nobody wants to draw a straight line anyway. Straight lines are generally fairly boring, unless, of course, you're an architect. That's a whole other story. But, like, in art, being able to draw a straight line ain't no great shakes. And I want people to get to this point where they stop allowing their fear to ruin their natural creativity. I'm afraid of being judged for my lack of professionalism in my artwork. That's what you're saying. And I just want you guys to learn how to just let go of that whole thought process, because it's not healthy for you. You do need to create. As a human being, we all need to do it. And, capitalism sort of ruins that for us, because we are taught that we have to monetize, in America anyway, and we're obviously a highly capitalistic society, and we're a highly materialistic society, right? If you don't drive the right car or whatever, yeah, I'm not even going to go there, but we're taught that we need to be really great at something, and you don't have to be. And by the way, stop comparing your beginning efforts to the efforts of somebody who's been doing something for 15 or 20 years, because you know what? They sucked as much as you do right now. If you haven't started anything, they suck too. And I think learning how to laugh at your failures in art is real important. Gosh, I wonder what they're doing over there. And I think just doing something for the joy of doing something is something we need to get back to. I don't believe that we should have to monetize everything. I don't think that our joy should have to compulsorily become a side hustle, because that sort of defeats the point of the therapy that is inherent in creating our own thing and just having fun and doing our own thing and being like, hey, I wonder what'll happen if we do this, or what happens if we do that. Experimentation, it's just such a great thing, and being able to experiment with things, and most of all, accepting failure, or what you view as failure, and being able to learn from that. I think that's a really powerful thing that people, when they're younger, like I say, junior high, high school age, there's this tipping point, it seems to me, where we're shamed for not doing everything absolutely perfectly right the first time. I mean, if you think about it, that's kind of asinine, right? Like, nobody looks at a baby that's attempting to make its first steps, and they sort of are struggling to get up, and they're wobbly, and then they fall over on their butt or on their face or whatever the heck it is. And nobody says, wow, baby, you're such a loser. You couldn't even do it on your first try. God, that's terrible. You call that standing? You call that walking? Like, who does that, right? Like, nobody does that. We all understand and we give a baby grace for making mistakes, right? But ourselves, we're harshly judgmental about our mistakes, and that's just not healthy for us. That's what leads to extreme anxiety and, people needing medication to survive a day-to-day existence, right? So I invite you, as I'm going along on my little rant here, I invite you to consider taking joy and happiness and satisfaction, more than anything else, satisfaction in life, in creating, whatever it happens to be, because really in the end that's what life is all about, right? I mean, you hear people talk about this. I'm not like a genius or anything when I talk about how people prioritize, I think, the wrong things. I'm not a genius to say, oh yeah, on your deathbed, are you going to be happy that you did all of this stuff? No, I don't want to play, honey. Grace, come here. Come here. Oh, it's the dog. It's the dog. Sit. You sit. Typical ball-obsessed German Shepherd. Okay, go get your ball. Yeah, of course you had to roll it under the wheel. Did you get it? Did you find it? No, of course not. Of course not. Dog parenting, right? All right, let's find your ball. Oh, did you get it? Okay, good for you. Good Lord. It's like having a cat. Anyway, so the purpose of life is not to have a job and work until you drop dead, right? I mean, that's what the bill of goods that we've been sold, but that's, come on, you have to have figured out that that's not the deal. And I'm not, advocating being a lazy bum and sitting around on the couch eating bonbons all day by any stretch, but come on, you got to give yourself time to rejuvenate and to take joy in things and satisfaction in things. And I urge you to do what Julia Cameron said in her book, The Artist's Way, which is, by the way, not just for artists. I think it's a really great way of expanding yourself and your understanding of yourself. That's a very personal journey, right? And Julia Cameron says, take yourself out on an artist date. Meaning, go do something that's fun and creative all by yourself. You don't have to get the gang together in order to do that, right? And go out and do something that's new, that is creative. Maybe go to a museum by yourself. Maybe take yourself out to a lunch place that you haven't been before. Maybe, sign up for a ceramics class at your local pottery place or Parks and Rec. Or take a painting class or a drawing class. There are a lot. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, so you can't throw a rock without hitting somebody who's creative, right? But, out here, they've got a lot of live modeling classes. I don't know if you've seen, but like right back there, we've got a nest of finches in this lamp here. This is a tea candle lamp, and there's one panel of glass missing, and they decided it would make a great place for a nest, which I can't disagree with them. It is a great place for a nest. It's nice and protected for you. Anyhow, so you can join a life drawing class, take a basic drawing class. Sometimes you can take college classes still. It just sort of depends on how your local college behaves towards people who just want to take a good class like that, and you're not necessarily doing it to get your master's in fine arts, you know. I would urge you to take time if you possibly can. Look, I know, like a lot of you have kids you got to take care of. Obviously, that takes priority and everything, but you know, you do need some time to recharge yourself. I think that's really, really important, and I think it's important to find peace and joy and satisfaction in things that are ordinary, things that you are exposed to every day. Yes, I know all of us are having a rough time, or many of us, I shouldn't say all of us, but many of us have a rough time just, you know, getting bills paid and doing all the adult stuff that we need to do. And maybe your boss is awful, and maybe they're not, but what you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm driving at. You know, adulting ain't easy, and being an adult is possibly one of the worst decisions I've ever made. But you know, what happens when you take joy in small things, and it rolls back around to, I'm sure you've heard this before, gratitude. This word called gratitude, like, your life does improve at that point when you start being grateful for some of the cool stuff that happens that maybe you've taken for granted before. I mean, I wake up in the morning and I'm really aware of how privileged I am. Okay, I am lucky enough to live in a nice house. When my life blew up a few years back, I living the dream, you know, 49 years old and moving back in with your parents. And you know, after I moved in, I discovered that my folks needed help because they're getting older. My mom passed away a year ago, January. She was 93. My dad is now 88. He needs some help too, and all of that. So that's why I ended up staying, because it was very much apparent to me that they needed help. And I'm very lucky that I get to live here. I mean, I've got this, you know, you see in the background, I don't know how well the color shows up, but there's this gorgeous wisteria vine here. You can hear the gigantic wind chime from time to time over the construction noise. And you can hear the birds. There's wild parrots that live in my area, and you can hear them sometimes flying on by and screaming at each other. And I wake up in the morning and I'm just all snuggly and warm, and I've got, you know, I go through that list of like, wow, lucky me, I've got a roof over my head. I'm gonna get up, and you know, I've got my warm little doggo next to me who loves me and who's just a kick. And I go through all of these things. It's like I'm, you know, even down to the real small cheeseball things, like I can hear. I'm really lucky that I can hear. I've got a wicked case of tinnitus. Young kids, don't stand next to the stacks at concerts. Just don't. It will hurt you. But anyway, I go down to the ridiculously ordinary things that I'm grateful for. And that makes my life a little bit better, because it gets me in the habit of looking for those things, and I feel that sweet, warm satisfaction of waking up in the morning in my nice bed that's nice and warm and toasty, and with my sweet dog. I am very lucky that at my age I enjoy pretty disgustingly good health. Yeah, I could stand to lose some weight, and I am going to the gym and working out and just so I can be stronger and all that stuff, but like, I'm really freaking lucky. And I bet that if you go down your list of things of very ordinary things that you may be taking for granted right now, that you'll find things that'll make you happy and satisfied. And I think that moment that you wake up in the morning and maybe you're not even having your eyes open yet, maybe you haven't even opened them, and you just have that warm, snuggly feeling. Hold on to that feeling and cultivate that feeling, so that maybe you can take those, when you take those breaths that I tell you to take, you can take those and take it with you into those breaths during the day, and take that moment of satisfaction and peace. Just be satisfied with what you got. Capitalism, yeah, we all live in a capitalist society. We all got to pay rent or mortgage or bills or whatever. But capitalism is teaching us not to be happy and not to be satisfied with what we have, and not to be grateful. I mean, we are a profoundly ungrateful society, aren't we? I mean, when you really, really look at it, you look at the arrogance that is inherent in being privileged, right? The arrogance in, well, if that poor person could just do whatever, and that judginess and all of that stuff. And I think that takes away from ourselves, our satisfaction, our happiness. Putting yourself above other people and putting yourself in a position where you're superior to others, where you have to feel superior to others, where you must stand on top of other people in order for you to feel taller, that is not something that really does make you that is not true happiness. That's spitefulness and pettiness is what that is. So true happiness, I think, comes from being satisfied with what you have. Not to say that you can't set goals and reach for other things, because knowing what you don't want really does give you an idea of what you do want, right? And that's great too. That has its place. But I think making a habit of observing things that are tiny little things that make you happy during the day will ultimately shift your thought processes into a better place and make you happier longer. I'm sorry, I'm really intent on this. Just kind of to give you an idea of how this goes. I'm going to keep going. I don't know if you can see, now I've been carving this bit out. And this is just the rough carving. This is not how it's going to look when it's done. And you can kind of see that I've started to carve the letters out on that. So, anyhow, I'm going to let you go now, because, it's Monday and I'm going to have to roll. It's like, it's 7:51 in the morning. Half the day is gone, right? But do me a favor, subscribe, all right, to this. If you want to support my artwork, please go to Shellhawks Creations on Etsy. That's etsy.com/shop/Shellhawks Creations. Go to my Patreon page. Be a patron, even if it's $5 a month or whatever. Go ahead, be a patron. Help me to do this stuff, Just on the side, I have a 1-pint bottle of underglaze that now 1 pint, it used to be $30. It's now up to $50 for 1 pint of underglaze. And it's like, holy cow, it got really expensive, because we've still got supply chain issues in the ceramics world, and we have shortages of raw materials. So everything's getting expensive. I had another potter that was mentioning that there is a plaster shortage. Can you believe that? I don't know if that's been resolved yet or not, but when there's a shortage, things get more expensive. That's just how things roll. So in any case, subscribing to my Patreon would be awesome. Go find me on Instagram. Go find me wherever I am. I have a link tree now. I actually finally did that. So please support it. Support me, subscribe, and please spread the word. If you like what I'm doing, spread the word. Please leave a comment. I'm always up for civil discussion and an exchange of ideas. I love to hear other people's thought processes. If you think I suck, you can tell me gently. Don't be mean to me. I'm very fragile. Okay, I hope you have a beautiful day, a beautiful evening, whatever it is. I hope it's great, and reach for the satisfaction, okay? Um, and again, as I said in my first thing, I'm not an expert on any of this stuff. I'm just a simple potter. Mostly I like make cups and bowls and stuff like that. Bye. Have a great one. Doggo.